Every historic building in Rolla represents a wealth of stories. Many of the buildings you pass by every day have stories that are little known. For example, many don't realize that the Phelps County Bank used to be the Edwin Long Hotel, and that national figures such as President Harry S. Truman, Marilyn Monroe, and Henry Fonda stayed there while passing through Phelps County. Many don't know about the escape from the old jail, as reported in the Rolla Express, in which prisoners escaped on Friday evening while Mr. Weber, the jailer, was at supper. Others don't know that the Bureau of Mines building had hosted scientists from all around the globe and was a center for research and study. As of this recording, there are 4 buildings on the National Register of Historic Places located here in Rolla, Missouri. 2 of them are owned by the Phelps County Historical Society, those being the old courthouse and the old jail. There is also the Bureau of Mines building and the Phelps County Bank. There is also a historic district, the Rolla Ranger Station, which includes 5 limestone buildings constructed by the Civilian Conservation Corps during 1937 and 1938. The old buildings you'll find in Rolla are a great way to learn more about the history of both Phelps County and of the larger history of Missouri. I brought in retired historian Mark Stauter and his assistant Melody Warner of the Phelps County Historical Society to help describe what it takes to have a building on the National Register of Historic Places, and also some buildings in some districts that might be added someday in the future to that list.
To be on the National Register, it has to have architectural or historical or cultural significance. And Rolla's done an almost systematic job of destroying the great old houses in town. We were lucky to save the old courthouse. It was going to be torn down, and we convinced the county to turn it over to the Historical Society, which they did. And that was 1994, so we still have that. The original jail is a limestone block building. It's not going to fall down, requires very little maintenance, so that's in good shape. We've kind of neglected the Dillon Log House. That's not on the National Register, but it's important to us. Kind of neglected that, and it's getting time now where we have to start working on that. But we've put our effort into the old courthouse, which was crucial. It's 160 odd years old. To some extent, it does have national significance. During the Civil War, the railroad, just prior to the war, the railroad had just gotten to Rolla from St. Louis. And so when the war broke out, the building wasn't done, but it was in place, and they were working on the interior. And the Union recognized the importance of the end of the railroad to the war effort, to hold that so they could use that to transfer goods from railroad cars to wagon trains. So during the war, it was taken over by Union troops and used for various things. The most important was there was a hospital after the Battle of Wilson's Creek in August 1861. And then the Union Army used it. They had offices. We believe they stored hay upstairs. So it was used, and it had significance to the war effort. It was used as a courthouse from 1865 to 1994. So in that period of time, there were many alterations made so that they could keep on using it. So it's been, and then there's the whole western side. Several additions were put on, most significantly the 1912 jail addition on the southwest corner. So the whole western side has been totally altered from the original. They had very high ceilings in those days, so they cut the rooms in half. So they doubled the floor space, cut them in half horizontally, doubled the floor space. So we've removed some of those on the east side. The east side, we've done a lot of progress on the east side in restoring the look that we want. We uncovered some pressed metal ceilings that had been covered over the years, and got down to the wooden floors. So we do what we can within the limits of things that had been done. We could say it can never be the 1860 building, and it wouldn't be very useful if it were. Because of our National Register status, we've been exempted from Americans with Disabilities Act requirements, but we want to meet them because we want the building to be useful. We want it to be a community building, and now the restored circuit courtroom would just be a wonderful place to have meetings, but we just can't get people up the stairs. Probably the one that we would like to see most somehow preserved is Lincoln School, which was the black school during the segregation days. During and after the Civil War, hundreds of freed slaves and their families came to Rolla for protection because the Union Army had a big presence here. And after the war, they needed school, a church, which are back to back. And so the Lincoln School was used right up into the mid-1950s as the black school. And then it was sold to I'm trying to remember which church. Now it was the RLDS Church, the Reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints, which is now, they've renamed themselves as the Community of Christ Church. And they meet there now, and they own the building. So, and we have, the Historic Society has met there. We've had membership meeting there. We would like to convince them that this building, even altered as it is, has such cultural and historical significance, and much of the exterior is still good. So that's kind of, we have a lost black history in Rolla, because over the years, the school only went to like the 6th grade, so if you wanted more, you left town, and they never came back. So the black population declined over the years, and we have sort of a lost black history. But again, this has great cultural significance. If we wanted to do a historic district, Salem Avenue has just a wonderful eclectic blend of architecture and size, and I mean, that could be done, I think, but it would require a lot of work. You'd have to figure out when the buildings were done. Plus, we always, with National Register, you're always up against, you want to have the owner's approval or cooperation to get on, and people are very wary of that. They believe that if their building goes on the National Register, then they can't make any alterations to it, which isn't true. You can do anything you want with it unless you use federal money. Then you have to follow the Secretary of the Interior's Historic Preservation Guidelines. But, so that's another thing that holds us back, that the people who own the structure want to have it on the register. And say a lot of people are not, they don't want that. They don't want to see any restrictions on their property. But Salem Avenue would, as the whole length of Salem Avenue would be a good candidate, I think.
The Missouri Bicentennial is a great time to support efforts to preserve buildings on the National Register of Historic Places. Consider joining and getting involved with the Phelps County Historical Society or a similar organization serving your local area. You can also help by simply educating yourself about the history of the buildings in your Missouri community and taking some time to visit them if they are publicly accessible. The preservation of history isn't the job of just one person, organization, or government. It's something that we can all get involved with and contribute to. Find ways to get involved that are meaningful to you, and in so doing you will help ensure that local history is preserved for future generations.